Let's explore another mood disorder, bipolar, which has been highly misunderstood. So what is bipolar? Maybe you could begin by defining the extremes of the moods in this condition.
Yeah. So mood disorders are a cluster of syndromes that are made up of what I would call building blocks. The building blocks of mood disorders in general are episodes.
Yeah.
So episodes of illness make up the disorder. The primary episodes in mood disorders are depressive episodes, hypomanic episodes, and manic episodes. Three basic building blocks. Combinations of those will give you a mood disorder. So depressive episodes is low mood most of the time, almost every day, loss of appetite, feeling low, and so on. Hypomania or a hypomanic episode is having an elevated mood and being excited, being happy for no reason at all. It just comes upon you and lasts for a bit of time, then it goes away. Often not very destructive. So a person with hypomania will have racing thoughts, but they're not destructive. So they're able to connect things very quickly. They're able to do things very fast. They need less sleep, but they get some sleep, and they're still functional. Now, manic episode, that is mania, goes beyond hypomania, and this person becomes extremely irritable or has an extremely elevated mood that goes beyond what is normal, and this continues for a long period of time. They have racing thoughts that eventually become disorganized. They have lots and lots of energy, and they do very, very many things at the same time, often not being able to achieve much. So it becomes destructive when it is mania. Now, a person who gets only depressive episodes over and over again, that person will be described as having major depressive disorder. A person who has manic episodes with or without depressive episodes coming in between would be considered to have bipolar 1 disorder. A person who has depressive episodes but then sometimes gets hypomanic episodes is described as having bipolar 2 disorder. So that is how we classify those mood disorders, broadly speaking. And so bipolar disorder is characterized primarily by manic episodes that are not provoked by anything else. They just come upon you, and sometimes when they're not having manic episodes, they will be normal, they'll have a normal mood and are able to function. And sometimes they might have depressive episodes when they're not having the manic episodes, and sometimes the two can coexist. So that within the course of a week, a person has experienced a depressive episode and has come up and into a manic episode, and so that's called a mixed episode. So that is bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder is relatively common in the context of illnesses. So up to 1 to 2% of the population will experience bipolar disorder in their lifetime. 1 to 2%. So if you have 100 million people in some countries, like Nigeria has probably 200 million people, 2 million people would experience bipolar disorder. So you can see the magnitude of it. With our 50 million, if you go and are conservative and are looking at 1%, you're talking about 500,000 people experiencing bipolar disorder in their lifetime. So it is a big problem, and the main problem with bipolar disorder is that it removes people from productive functioning. It will remove you from work. It will interfere with your social and occupational functioning. It will interfere with the relationships. And if you are in school, it will interfere with your school achievement because you'll no longer be able to function at school and so on. So there's that loss of productivity and interfering with personal achievement and goals. But also, it also increases your risk of doing risky things that could result either in harm or even in death because of the risk-taking that happens when you're having a manic episode. Do
we have a status as such as highly functioning persons with bipolar, of people who are extremely creative, who do long lengths of, like they have that period when they're really productive at work or Is that attributable?
If when you're going into a depressive episode, obviously your productivity will reduce and so on and so forth. But it doesn't mean that your creativity has gone. So even a person with depression or going into depressive episode would still be creative, but then the creation is not there. They're not able to create, but they can still see things differently from people. So many people with depression have come out of depression and written masterpieces when they're able to function. Now, when you're going into mania, the opposite, when you reach hypomania, you're very, very productive because it's not destructive. You still have racing thoughts, you have many ideas, you have so many ways you're seeing this thing can be done differently and so on. And you may even try and people might see that it is actually working. If you see to the person with hypomania, who is of average intelligence, that person will appear to you like a genius. Because of the connections that they're making, and the brain is rushing very fast, and and they make connection in speech, in imagery, and so on and so forth. And yes, so the creation is enhanced, if you like, with people who have mania. Even if they're just averagely creative, but then the doing, they will do a lot more, and you might say, wow, this guy is really good. As they head into mania, it starts becoming more and more disorganized. So the energy is now being thrown in all directions.
They've taken multiple projects, not concentrating
and it stops making sense.
Yes.
It stops. So people will be like, this is no longer genius. This is now illness. So that's where people might think that if you have bipolar disorder, that you're more creative than the average person. But it's just how the brain works. You make more connections until the connections stop making sense. Then it becomes obvious to everybody that this is no longer normal functioning, that this is an illness.
The treatment and management of bipolar, is it similar to those that you've just outlined?
So no. So for bipolar disorder, yes, if you get a depressive episode during bipolar disorder, the psychotherapy would be useful, but the medications will be different. Very different. So we will not necessarily have to use the antidepressants that are used in depression. We will use medications that are called mood stabilizers. And the mood stabilizers are used for bipolar. Once you diagnose bipolar disorder, then you would use mood stabilizers rather than antidepressants, because the mood stabilizers will be used even if somebody is going into mania. It's the same medication that will be used for them. And some severe cases of mania or depression in bipolar disorder would respond to ECT in much the same way, or the other modalities in much the same way. But as somebody goes into mania, mood stabilizers, some antipsychotic medications would be very helpful to bring the mood back to normal, where then you can have other interventions to help them.
All right.